All right, so we are live on YouTube with
Oh my
Gina
gosh.
Sonne. Hi, thank you for watching. We are sharing today. I will be talking with a very good friend from Vermont in the US, Gina Sonne. Thank you so much, Gina, for joining us today. We will be talking a little bit about pandemic lockdowns and how the arts and meditation and yoga may be helping us coping with this new reality we are all facing. So Gina, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Do you want to tell people who are you a little bit?
Sure. So I am living in Vermont in the States, and I am retired, and I've had many careers, but my mm, most recent inspirational career has been in social dancing and particularly waltzing and Lindy and blues. And it's kind of a rebirth for me because I studied dancing when I was in college, but not social dancing. So to have rediscovered a dance form in my 60s was just, I don't know, it was a miracle. So,
Mm.
yeah.
So what distinguishes social dancing from the dance you did in college?
So in college, it was just modern dance, ballet, solo,
Mm.
all kinds of dancing, but just where you would just take dance class and study techniques.
Mhm.
And then once you get out of college, you still have to just to keep it up. You have to take classes all the time, and sometimes you wind up living in a place where there aren't any classes, which is what happened here. So to find social dancing is it's a social thing, and you connect with partners. And I learned a whole lot of different. Um, it's just a very different experience. I mean, one can bring some skills, some different kinds of body awareness when you're partnering with somebody, and uh, and because you're touching another human, um, the whole thing changes. And it's not that when I was studying modern dance, you did some maybe contact improv, but that was not structured. Like when you do social dancing and you learn about frame and connection and the subtleties of how you give direction with your hand or your energy or your body shifting, it just opens up this whole uh, different way, different kind of awareness. Um, and so that was a great discovery. And then, kind of at the same time, I started deepening my experience with meditation. So there was a lot of crossover with body awareness and meditation and and dance and movement and
When
connection.
when did you when did you start getting into meditation? Do you remember or how? Where?
Yeah, it was a long, slow process. Um, so um, formal meditation was probably maybe in the mid 80s, let's say, where I
When I
went to.
was when I was born.
Yes. Okay. And I went to a place in the States in Massachusetts called Kripalu, which was one of the early meditation places on the East Coast that taught that. And there was a guru there who is no longer there. Um, so that was my first experience of deep exploration, inner exploration, and they did a lot of self awareness and all that new age. It's when the new age movement was just blossoming. And then I was introduced to Quaker Meeting, which offered me an opportunity to really appreciate what it means to sit in silence in community. And then I also was involved with hospice and end-of-life movement. And so all those things kind of came together. And I learned about Buddhism through that, because teachers like, Stephen Levine and Joan Halifax, all those early Buddhist teachers who were involved in the end-of-life, developing that whole area of focus was a big deal. So I was kind of in on the beginning of that. And that was great. So, and then I found. Go ahead.
Sorry, how would sitting in silence among others relate that sort of connection? How would that relate to relating dancing with others? Because you talk about touching and learning to guide and be guided in social dancing. Is there any connection between the two kind of connections with others?
That's a really good question. Maybe I never really thought about that, but I think there's something about being in community, whether you're talking or being in silence, that it's hard to find the words to describe it, but there's something about that experience of being in other beings' presence that creates a different kind of energy.
Yes.
There's definitely a time in Quaker Meeting where if people aren't familiar with that, people just sit in silence, and if they feel really moved by something that's coming up for them, their reflection on life, then they can stand up and speak to it. And so generally speaking, there's a level of concentration and awareness that happens when people speak out of the silence that touches everybody else, And there's also sometimes in Quaker Meeting where nobody says anything, but it feels very, what do we call it? It's a I'm forgetting the term the Quakers use. Like it's just, everybody is experiencing the same level of fullness, inspiration without words. And so that was an interesting connection. But as far as, I think the connection for me now between dance and meditation and silence is it's enhanced my understanding of what mindfulness is about. And through the study of Vipassana, it's a more awareness of how the body and the mind are connected. Previously, when I was first introduced to meditation, say, it was all about the head, about thinking, about inquiry and figuring it out and that kind of thing. But to really learn, for me to learn how mindfulness, Vipassana meditation is about growing one's understanding of the deep, deep connection of mind and body. And those words they're thrown out. I mean, they're thrown out there in the world. They're, oh yeah, mind, body, yeah. Oh, isn't that nice? But when one really studies it and works with the Dharma, you begin to internalize those understandings in a deeper way.
I was watching last night a documentary about health and how our gut is so relevant to it. And they were saying that we are both electrical and chemical beings, but especially electric. Like we are firstly, the electricity we start being electric beings. So I was imagining, while sitting in silence among others, how our electricity is also in contact with these people, and that connection may be changing our chemistry, and they were also saying how meditation can change or reshape like really our brains and how we perceive ourselves and the world around us. How do you feel meditation and maybe social dancing have reshaped or helps you reshaping your brain or your perception about life?
Um, I it's it's I think together. I think those two pieces together, those two disciplines, are perfect for one another. And I mean, they happen to be part of my life. You know, my training, my who I am in the world. So for me, they kind of make this whole thing. You know what the meditation, the mindfulness of, you know, the moment to moment experience just is like so present when one is trying to move and move in a particular way with another being, so that you're moving as one. It, you know, it's just completely about being mindful and being, yeah, just understanding what presence is. um, and and the dance influences the silence, the sitting still, the meditation posture of, you know, I mean, I'm much more aware of my body than probably most beings are, because they haven't had any, if you've never had any physical training in anything, it wouldn't. So I just think they really complement one another a lot. And yeah.
And this ability to being present, do you feel like it has helped you during the pandemic lockdowns, for instance? You are experiencing solo lockdowns. You came back to your college environment of solo dancing, so to speak, and now you are kind of mostly
Yeah.
meditating and maybe dancing in life solo in a solo mode. So have meditation and maybe this being present ability helped you somehow dealing with the pandemic?
Well, the first couple things come to mind. One is dealing with dukkha, unsatisfaction, you know, dealing with loss. Okay. That's a real, like, oh boy, you know, end of that experience, you know, no more touching, no more being in not even being in the same room with somebody. I mean, that's like, whoa, big time grieving. Um, um, and sort of a forced, not sort of, but a forced reckoning with, what do I do now? Can't have this, you know. And I mean, the thing that's enabled all of humanity to, I think, grow and explore this pandemic is having this technology. I mean, if we can imagine what this would be like if we didn't have this technology, if we knew we couldn't talk, we couldn't even see somebody else's face or hear their voices, especially multiple voices at a time. So that's filled in a gap, I think, of kind of, it's eased the experience of loss, because we found other channels. And I think that the video, in terms of the creative work that artists are doing, because we have this technology, I've been just so impressed with the videography, the way people are, dancers, performers, of all kinds are using this to communicate with the outer world, but also explore their own creativity and sort of forced creativity. But it's a good thing.
So, have you been watching any? Which channels do you use to watch dancers, for instance? Do you have any maybe YouTube
Uh,
channels or something different?
well, I subscribe to different dance companies, and they show their stuff regularly, and sometimes they have new works that they do. So I do a lot of modern dance, but also I just watch a lot of other social dance, even older, teaching videos. I mean, there's so many wonderful. That's my mindfulness bell that just rang. Just a minute. We got to pause. We have to pause.
Yeah, we can. Do you wanna guide us? Like, by the way, Gina has always been has always had also been a you were the director of this Vipassana group. Why don't
Oh,
you?
well,
I may, yes,
yeah.
and maybe after this, maybe you could guide us to have a 1 minute exercise, mindfulness exercise, maybe if you like.
Well, we'll see. I'm not the leader of the group. I was the president of the board, but not the guiding
the,
teacher. But
the guru.
let's see, where were we? Oh, what else I was watching? So I think because I've been, it's just so helpful for me to articulate this, Javier, because when you live alone, you don't often articulate you don't solidify what your ideas and thoughts are. But because I've been alone and isolated, and I have this technology, I can receive a lot of amazing inspiration from artists all over the world who I never would have interacted with ever. And at the touch of a button, I can watch beauty. I can bring that into my world in a moment, and that's remarkable.
It
Like,
is. Yes.
yeah, I mean, like I follow this one company, this Alvin Ailey, who was an early modern dance Black African American, who's started his career, I don't know, 50 years ago, I think. And his company is just so vital, and they're doing this amazing, you can see their whole repertoire on YouTube, and with all new dancers, not the people that were doing it in the 60s originally, but so that's just quite wonderful. I mean, I think, yeah.
Despite these amazing tools we have, these tech tools, do you feel we as human beings, we are still lacking something from this interaction through a computer, for instance, instead of being present in a theater in front of the artists and dancers? Are we lacking for some kind of connection, do you think? You
Yeah.
as a dancer and as an audience now, because now you are the audience watching, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do think we're missing something, and everyone recognizes that.
Mm-hmm.
What the good thing that's come out of this technology is that these artists have been able to go online and share with us their process. They can talk about how they created the works, what they've done, so there's this documentation of the artistic process that we would not have been necessarily a part of had we just gone to the theater and seen a show. I mean, they have a talk back for 10 minutes after the theater, but that's not really understanding the hearts of these artists, what motivates them, how they've grown, you know, what. So that has been a beautiful thing. And I was also thinking, for people, young people, let's say kids in high school, you know, who haven't had a lot of exposure to live theater, they don't know what they're missing. They don't have anything to compare it to. So how is that affected? How will, I mean, they don't have any raw material to like compare anything with. Like, what are they missing? They're just like, oh man, we got all this stuff. You know, I think
Yes.
so. I think that's a challenge for all of us. How do we discern what we bring into our visual field? What 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 kind of energy and stuff are we packing into our head? And so I'm very conscious of when I think, oh, I'm spending too much time on the computer doing mindless things or writing stuff or watching, not just stuff. Oh, I really want to watch a beautiful dance. I can just sit here and maybe even not multitask. Maybe I could just sit here like I'm in the theater and watch the show, you know, and that's hard. It's hard to just sit and watch the show or sit and listen fully. So that's where the whole mindfulness thing can come in. It's a discipline, not always good at doing it. But that's the danger of technology, you know, the
immediacy and the overwhelming amount of info. Yes. Have you found these dance companies sharing their pieces sort of like from a raw point of view of talking about the recording, it is more like an edited sort of musical movie? You know what I'm because when you are in the theater, you have just one front
right.
from the
Yeah.
scene. Is it more edited, different frames and close-ups?
It depends on, yeah, it varies. I think that
Very
depending on who the videographer is, you know, there's some things that are just documentary level, but what they can do in terms of, you know, close-ups of a performance and, you know, like moving back and forth, you know, that it's interesting. It's different. It's certainly not the same as seeing a big wide, you know, when I have the choice of where my eyes go looking at the stage, you know, who I focus on, you know, the videographer is telling me what they see. So, you know, there's pros and cons to it.
Yes, we're missing the heat inside the room, the breathing process of the dancer, maybe all that
Right. The sweat,
sweating process, the
yeah.
sweat.
On the other hand, the ability to be close up visually with is just extraordinary. You know, if you don't have a lot of money and you have to be in the seat that's a half a mile away from the stage and the people are this big,
You
that's a
can see
different experience.
their hand doing like that gesture.
Right. So there's an intimacy that happens in the internet that's just very powerful, really powerful.
Yes.
And you wouldn't normally think of that. I mean, I feel like that even doing Zoom calls, many people have said they've been surprised in the meditation community that at first they were really resistant to guided meditations or retreats on Zoom because it was Zoom.
Yes.
But I have felt that it's surprisingly intimate. You know, that when my teacher is right there, 12 inches from my face, I can see their facial expressions, where if I'm in the Dharma hall and I'm 100 feet behind them, it's different, so
Mm.
it's
Pros and
not really
cons.
comparison. It's just recognizing that it's different, and not to say one is better than the other, but it's what we have.
Why don't we share with us, Gina, the experience we shared actually inside dialogue about the inside dialogue retreat? Why don't we share a little bit, because since you are sharing a little bit about this Zoom
Right.
meditation retreats.
Yeah. Okay. So I was introduced to this um, practice of insight dialogue through various teachers in the Vipassana tradition, and I was just intrigued with it. And because we were on Zoom, there were a lot of opportunities to do trainings, to learn more about what insight dialogue is. And essentially, it's a way that insight meditation has been synthesized and through this man Gregory Kramer's experience to develop a practice where we can really feel we can bring uh, uh, the insight into daily life, not just sitting on the cushion, but in interactions and our interpersonal interactions with people every day. And that was important to me because I found that hard, when you're on the cushion and you're thinking and you're like, oh, and you have these insights, but then somehow it's hard to um, translate them into when you walk out the door and you greet somebody who annoys you. Like, where did that loving kindness go in those 2 seconds, right? Um, so so when I heard there was going to be I took a weekend workshop in Insight Dialogue, and it just didn't seem like enough. It was like I got a little taste of it. And then I heard there was this 8-week program. So I thought, that makes more sense. It would just be more time to integrate the ideas into working. And so I said, I should do this. I'd like to do this. And then I said,
And how does the each session work? Maybe you can, because maybe people have never done it before inside dialogue meditation, and they cannot even imagine how it works. So can you share, maybe describe one session for people to?
right. And then you chime in too, because I want to hear your reaction. So,
Okay.
so Javier had never done this, and so I invited him to participate in this 8-week program. So, Insight Dialogue has 6 parts. And so each week we spent time learning about each aspect of it. So, the beginning one, we'll start with the pause, because it's easy to, it's an easy word. um, so, in order to access mindfulness, to sort of activate our mind into being aware of what mindfulness is, Gregory Kramer developed this 6-point program. So the first piece is just to say the word in your mind or out loud, to pause. And so I'm sure that whoever's listening to this, when they heard that word and then they felt a space, something happens to us. Something happens inside and outside. There's a shift in awareness. So the teachers would spend, maybe half an hour talking about a little background on what the pause meant, how he developed it, and they would then give an example. They would develop say a little scenario, and they would say, maybe you remember this, it might look like this, and then they'll give an example. And I thought that was very helpful. So it wasn't just a lot of it was coming, they were sharing it out of their own experience. So it wasn't just a bunch of intellectual words. And then after we did that for a while, sometimes we would break into small groups and have a chance to, it would be very formulated what they asked us to talk about and how we would listen. So I don't know. Can you add more? What else comes up for you?
Yeah, for me it was an amazing experience as well. I was very surprised how powerful it is, um, being able to have the chance to pause, to observe and feel, but also to have the dialogue part. For me, that was the new part about meditating, about being able to share your process moment by moment with others, and for me that was the kind of the nuance to it, the um, the surprising part, how powerful it is to being able to listen to others, trying to be present, not judging them, um, and observing yourself at the same time while they are sharing with you their moment by moment meditation process. And I just found it so transformative. As I told you, I had very special dreams after some of the sessions, kind of lucid dreams, so to speak, where I was kind of doing important stuff, hugging some people maybe I needed to hug, or forgiving some, getting go, letting go some things in my life maybe. Um, and it, and me being an actor and working in the arts, being expressing myself so important to me, finding this tool, this meditation format where you not only experience yourself inwardly, but also you have the chance to express yourself. I don't know, it was like like a like a treasure in my path. So I'm really grateful, and I said, as I said, surprised by the power that this tool may have in our lives.
Wow. So nice to hear you articulate this. And at the same time, I was trying to do it. I was trying to listen internally, externally, and both internally and externally. And that to me is one of the things that Insight Dialogue has helped me to learn, that one can have this awareness, this internal awareness, and the external simultaneously. It's not like it's a little fluidity, but there's this awareness of both. It's not either or, it's always both, actually.
So
And
what would it be the distinguishing point between the external and the internal world for you? Like, what is the external awareness? Is about the other? Is it like you in the other? What is it?
Gosh, that's hard. I think it's sort of both. I mean, we are responding externally to the sound. We're responding externally to the visual input that we're getting from another person. Yeah. And simultaneously, we're feeling something inside. Okay. I
Mm,
see Javier. His eyes are sparkling when he talks about this. Yeah. That makes me feel warm. There's
mm,
that, but it's like it's the mindfulness. It's like articulating it in our being that this is what's going on, so that I don't know what I want to say, that so that I can be more alive to the world, not
mm.
just let it go whooshing by, because most of our daily conversations are like that. They're like, you know, here, gone.
Yes, yes.
And we can
So we
reflect afterwards, but it's a different experience, isn't it, when we can do that in the moment? I think that's the key.
would
Yeah.
you would you suggest any sort of exercise to the people are watching us today, like maybe for themselves when they are alone or when they are talking to others? Is there anything we can do to bring this tool? Let's say let's grab the term pause or pausing. How can we have done it a little bit when we were during these 8 weeks the retreat lasted. We were all sometimes having once a week a talk, and we used to
Mm-hmm.
pause in between the talk. Would you suggest anything to the people who are listening to us today, how they can apply this to their lives, and if this can help them to cope with the pandemic, might be a good idea to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just think this whole idea of pause is just brilliant because it's so simple. It's such a simple idea. That's not to say that it's easy, but it's not like
Mm,
we have to like manufacture what does pause mean. We all know what that means. Like
mm,
right this moment. Yeah. So when we initiate the pause, I think that's interesting. That word that just came up, initiate. It means that we have some kind of uh, I got to find the right word. I don't want to say control. We have some kind of agency. That's the new word. Some kind of agency about, wow, I can relate to this experience in this moment in a different way if I can pause, or when I pause. Yeah.
mm,
And that is the absolute foundation and basis of Vipassana, that it's how we relate to what happens to us that gives us insight, and that our awareness of how we're relating to it.
mm.
Um, yeah. And I think in terms of technology, this app called the Mindfulness Bell App, or Mindful Bell App, is a good um, it's a good way for beginners to begin this, because
Yes.
you can set it up just to ring randomly throughout the day, and it's
Mm,
a auditory reminder of saying pause.
mm.
And then when we pause, and we can choose how long we pause, we can pause for 2 seconds or 30 seconds
For 5 minutes.
or 5 minutes, and then we're aware how the energy is changing
Mm.
when we do that
That's
pause.
why you paused when you heard the bell. It was really for a pausing time. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like
And
yes.
What I noticed too, because when I started this mindfulness bell thing, you get used to it and you don't hear it. I mean, you hear it, but you ignore it. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, where does the agency come from to live in this world? You know, how do we make those choices? Oh, I'm getting teary. You know,
Oh,
and there's some beings like you who bring something different, who um yeah, you just bring a kind of mm, an openness to experience that's and a generosity that's so beautiful. So thank you.
thank you, Gina. I loved what you say about. I mean, to apart from pulsing and or how pulsing can help us to recover the agency over our lives. So important. Maybe this kind of agency over our thought process, our emotional process, maybe is the most important one. We are always looking after money agency, so to speak, or material agency, right? To being able to travel or to do whatever we want, but we can gain some agency over our thought process. I think that's much more valuable than being
Mhm.
able to buy the last iPhone or whatever. So if simply pausing for a few seconds can help us recovering that agency, I think it's invaluable. It's a
Yeah,
treasure. It's the real treasure of our lives.
I like the word you used, recover,
Mm,
because um, when I heard you say that, it triggered all kinds of thoughts in my mind. And primarily, the one was uh, how that word can directly relate to Vipassana meditation. And that is, we, when we recover something, it means we can start again. Yeah, we can regroup. And
mm,
that's the blessing of this form of meditation. And that is, it's not punitive, it's not higher, it's not like step by step. It's like, oh, oh, let's just start again. Oh, I'm aware that I lost myself for a moment. Oh, I can come back. So that
mm,
there's this generosity of understanding how human beings learn and how our minds and hearts are connected, that we don't have to, that we can have this self-compassion of, oh, we just like didn't get it just now, let's just try it again. We're uh, so it's my meditation teacher was saying that one of her teachers said, there's an expression in English, and I don't know if it's in Spanish, but we say, recover your, what is it?
mm.
Recover your peace of mind? No, no. Oh, I'm forgetting.
Don't worry, we can bring it
Anyways,
up.
something
We
like
can
that.
we can bring it to our next live, to our
Right.
next
Yeah.
episode.
I'll remember it later.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you were talking about recovering, I was thinking about how our body and minds can start recovering themselves, healing themselves when we pause, when we give a chance our body a chance to relax, to let it go, and also how this meditator was saying last night in this documentary, uh, how the meditation mindset is immediate. We don't need 6 months in a retreat. We may have some powerful insights if we go 6 months in a silent retreat, But
Mhm.
really, if you are if you have the ability to do so, you can get into a meditation state immediately. Like you just pause and you are there,
Mhm.
and your brain is reshaping itself, and your
Right.
body's recovering, and
Yeah.
you're gaining this
We have to.
agency.
Yeah. We have to give ourselves that space to recover, to let things settle, to let things find where they need to go.
Mm,
And in our current cultures, we don't give ourselves that. It's like
mm.
boom, 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 it's input, sound input, visual, it's so
So
fast.
much, so much.
In it, and that's what I worry about. I um but what else did you say?
Yes, I was thinking before we talked, I was thinking, yeah, when I was asking you about how the arts can help us to cope, I was thinking Gina will suggest us to go out and dance with our neighbors, and instead you were talking about this beautiful dance, these technology tools that allow. It's funny, but it's true. It's true. It's both sides. Technology has this both sides. Everything has two sides. So yeah, I find wonderful that you can see that the good side of everything. Uh, I find you have like a enlightening, so to speak, mindset, so you can see the good stuff even in this hardship, in this tough moment. So thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that also with us.
Yeah.
I
But
didn't
I
want to
think,
use optimistic, but it's like a
well, I think though that attitude that you're perceiving of how you view me in the world, it comes from a recognition of this sense of community and belonging that has arisen, through my sangha, through recognition of what it means to belong. I just want to say that this new book by this wonderful African American, well, she's not, yeah, she's originally Ethiopian, Sebene Selassie, wrote this book called You Belong. And it's giving me opened up my whole world to deepening my understanding of what it means to belong. Um, and so my experience through the pandemic is because I belong. I lost my belonging to my dance group, but I had to find new ways to belong to that. And but the sangha created this holding tank for, it's kind of a safety net, a refuge for how to hold this challenge that we're in. But so this whole idea of belonging is, again, it's a simple word like pause, to belong,
Mm,
but she breaks it down to be long. So a longing, like a yearning for connection,
mm.
and when we find that, and even people who believe differently than me, everybody is looking for a sense of belonging. The right
Yes,
wingers who think Trump is, they want to belong. They want to,
I
so
feel like the mindfulness and meditation and pausing help us to recover the sense that we belong to the moment, we belong to life, we belong to ourselves. It's like when you pause, you find yourself immersed in so much, which is life itself, that you stop needing to belong to someone else or something else outside. Really, you can enjoy belonging to any kind of group because you are whole in yourself. You're a whole being in yourself also. But if you're not belonging to yourself, so to speak, you will only be covering some emptiness in your life going outside, right?
Right,
Like,
right, right. Yeah,
mm, so
yeah.
we belonging to being, to the being, to
Right. Yeah, there's this whole this wonderful writer called Erich Fromm. He did you I told you about his book, you know, the Art of Loving. It's a classic book. But his
but I remember you were talking about Thich Nhat Hanh,
yeah, that he's
and
another one,
the
but Erich
is
Fromm
the
was
another one.
a psychologist. He wasn't a Buddhist, although he really was a Buddhist, but he was
Yeah.
talking about those ideas way back in the 50s. But he also wrote this other book called To Have or To Be, which
Mm,
is essentially another way of saying what you're talking about.
mm,
Um,
I
it's
like.
it's our human longing of, do we need to have things?
Mm,
How do we want to live in this world? We have to learn to be here. Anyway, so
mm,
I
yeah.
I ran across this thing I printed out the one time. I don't even. Oh, and on my computer, and I thought that was very interesting. The Buddha doesn't say let go of things, but to let go of the inner mind states. So that's kind of a little, oh, that's a new way to think of it. So in other words, what are the graspings of the inner mind states that take us away from, that keep us like agitated because we haven't
Mm.
paused, uh, that we need to let go of? I don't know. It's just a different way to kind of, oh, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah.
Mm. Gina, thank you so much. I think we have had a beautiful talk, and thank you so much
Hmm.
for sharing it, your being with all the rest of the world. I hope many people get a moment to watch this live. I think we covered many things.
Hmm.
Maybe I will ask you later on the name of the app and the books. I brought some of them
Hmm.
to post it in the description of this video that will stay here in YouTube. I don't know if you want to say anything else, Gina, in order to close this conversation. The mic is
Hmm.
yours.
Well, again, I'm really grateful that you initiated this and that you wanted to do that, because uh, it's helped me to articulate my own thoughts and learn to be aware of kind of connecting with my own mind, and to feel good about that. Feel good about what I have learned and what I am still learning, and um, to have an opportunity to reflect with you. I think having this kind of deep conversation of reflection, not just you know uh, just, opinions, but you know meaningful interactions, is it's a longing that I always have. So I'm just really grateful to you for this time.
Thank you, Gina. Would you like to, in any case, in case anyone wants to contact you, can we offer them in the description of the video, maybe any sort of, well, we'll see that later on. Maybe we can share
Yeah, it'd be
some way to
interesting
contact you.
if
Yeah.
you if people if anybody has heard this. Yeah,
Yeah,
we
we'll
can.
see.
Yeah,
You never
yeah.
know. You never know. There might be someone who is maybe in Vermont and want to do some social
Who wants to be my dancing
dancing,
partner for the rest of my life? Yes, I know. Did you
or
record
maybe
it also? Did you record this also, or you
I
just?
forgot I forgot to record, but I can download it from YouTube, so
Oh, okay.
I can
That would.
share it with you. Yes.
Oh, that would be cool. I think that it would be interesting to share that with My son, especially, whose birthday was yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So.
okay. Same as my niece.
Oh, right, right, right. Thank you, my dear.
Gina, take care. And
Uh,
we are gonna say goodbye to people on YouTube. We don't need to. Okay, people on YouTube, thank you so much.
Bye.
Don't forget to subscribe, to like or dislike the video, comment, everything is very welcome. Bye to the people